Hey guys, this is Gamer Cow. Welcome to another Pokemon Trading Card Game History video. This time, we're going over the black and white rule changes that were introduced when Gen 5 came out. We are officially beyond Majestic Dawn to Call of Legends format at this point. We have potentially one more battle video to put up, depends on sequencing, probably will go up before this. And yeah, beyond that, it's going to the 2011 Worlds format. And Nationals format for that matter, because the same sets were available. And it incurs the emergency rotation that we also saw the impacts of in the previous part 2 because of this little bastard. Oh man, the Sableye stuff just absolutely ruined the game. We're going to try and showcase that off here. JWits did do a video on this almost 12 years ago at this point. Sheesh. Yeah, he did a video on this. This is his deck with one change. I have taken out the Dust Ball that he played and I've got a 4th Uxie in here instead. And we'll try and show how this can draw your deck out on turn 1 and kill the opponent before they even draw a card. It's as not fun as it sounds, which is why I'm doing this solo, rather than doing it with somebody else having to watch and, you know, fail at it, I suppose. So, there are about 5 things which are worth noting here as far as rule changes go. We do still have the same setup rules as before. You flip after all of the setup stuff is done, and you choose to go, well, you don't choose at all. You go first if you flip correctly. You wouldn't choose to go second in this format anyhow, though, because there are no longer any restrictions on what you can do turn 1. This is going all the way back to Generation 1 rules at this point, where you actually could just do everything. We can attack, we can play supporters, we can play trainers. Trainers themselves have got a reclassification, so we'll go over that as well, but it's kind of rough, to be honest. In some ways, it's better, because going first was almost always a massive detriment in Gen 4, but now with nothing inhibiting that, it's just like, I don't know. I feel like this is going to be a massive swing that people are going to have to get used to, and it's just a, oh, you went first, therefore you won, even more so than before. So yeah, kind of rough. The second major change is to abilities. So in the past, we have had Poké Powers, which are your activated abilities, and Poké Bodies, which are your passive abilities, right? That's been the case for the last 2 generations, well, 2.5 really, because halfway through Gen 2 stuff kind of changed a fair bit in Expedition and whatnot. But now we go to abilities, and this is what it will remain as for until current day. This is the start of the expanded format. I don't think they're ever going to change this at this point. Maybe they'll change functionality somewhat as they go, but yeah, this is how it always is now. So I have 2 examples here. Embor's and its Inferno Fandango is effectively the same as Feraligator's Rain Dance, just without the limitation of what you can attach to. But this is your Poké Power style. And then we have Superior, which is Nidoqueen in the previous rotation. This is your Poké Body style. So both of them condense into one thing. There's only one tag now, so if something blocks abilities, then it will block both of these types. However, abilities and Poké Powers, Poké Bodies, those constructs do not interact. So the Entei and Raikou over here that only does damage to stuff with a Poké Power will not do damage to either of these 2 cards because they have abilities. This is different from how it was handled in Generation 2. I think that was partly a Wizards of the Coast thing, but also the Japanese game apparently errated all of the old Pokemon powers to be power or body specifically. That doesn't happen here. So yeah, these abilities cannot be turned off by, or cannot be blocked by stuff like Umbreon, for example. You can't use the Umbreon to body block these. The other thing you can't do is you can't turn these off by inflicting a special condition anymore. That is something which died at the end of Gen 4, so say Magnezone that is shut off by being affected by a special condition. Emboar does not have that restriction. So yeah, unfortunately, special conditions start their downtrend here. Not that they've been super relevant for a lot of the time, but even more so now, they are not nearly as relevant. The last big change as far as classification stuff goes is the trainers have been reclassified. So before, I don't have a stadium to show within this deck, but before we had trainer as a class, and then we had supporter is an entirely separate thing. Stadium was the third separate class of what we now know as trainer cards, and this is where the simplification came in. So all three of these are under the super type of trainer, and they now have a subtype, which is item, supporter, and stadium. Any card before Gen 5, like any of the Heart Gold Soul Silver stuff, I think it's only really Junk Arm, but Junk Arm is item only. It does not let you take a supporter out of the discard, it does not let you take a stadium out of the discard. It is item only. So that means, like I said, you can't take Juniper with it, but you can take, well, you would have been able to take VS Seeker if it was still in format. That got rotated out. Which is a bit of a shame, because the supporter cards now get discarded immediately after they resolve. So they don't stay in play like they have done the last, since existence. Don't exactly know why they changed that. It will cause some confusion, and DNA has told me that he has had to hand out many a game loss in formats with like N and whatnot, because people forgot that they'd already played a stadium, a supporter card, and then they played an N, and that shuffled all the stuff back in, and you can't recover the game state, so it's a game loss. We won't have that sort of issue, I don't think. If anything, we would probably put a marker down to say that we've used a supporter. We could use one of the Shocker and Prison markers to denote that, and that'll be fine. But just note, if we forget to discard them immediately, don't worry about it, we will get there. And yeah, that's more or less it for the stuff there. We have two erratas that we need to go over as well, though. Great Ball technically also got errata, but it also rotates out, so we don't have to worry about Great Ball for now. Great Encounters will bring it back, but it brings it back with its errata, so whatever. Rare Candy is the big one. You are not able to evolve using Rare Candy on the first turn you play a Pokemon, or on your first turn of the game, right? If you bench a basic Pokemon, you cannot go Rare Candy immediately onto it. This is something that probably will end up tripping people up, because that's how it has worked ever since we've had it. But think of it like the original Pokemon Breeder, because you also cannot evolve to a stage 1 using this anymore. I did this in the previous battle video where I did oddish Rare Candy to Gloom because I could Broken Time Space to Power Bloom, and that just burned an extra card out of hand. We can't do that anymore, so do keep that in mind. This will make stage 1s much less relevant in the stage 2 decks. So we're going to start seeing a lot more 4-1-4s, even sometimes like 4-0, like 4-0-3 lines in decks. That's going to come up a lot more often now. The second change is to Plus Power. Plus Power used to attach to a Pokemon, and then that Pokemon did 10 more damage to the opponent's active in the turn. Now it's a global buff, and it immediately discards itself. This is super relevant because it means that Junk Arm can recover the same copy of Plus Power that we just used. So this is big. This will matter so long as Junk Arm is legal. And yeah, that's more or less it. Lots of nice, fun little changes, we shall say, that's going to cause a lot of confusion until we get used to it, and then it'll be fine. Most of this stays relatively the same throughout all the generations to come. The first turn rules, of course, change as we go, and the stuff like tool cards in Generation 9 are going to change, but, for the most part, all of this kind of stays as it is. So yeah, new classifications of stuff, we'll get used to it as we go. Funnily enough, it's been basically as long now with these rules in place as it has without, so it's kind of fun. Anyway, we're going to try and show why the rule changes were immediately completely game destroying by trying to show how like one of the game's only FTK decks actually works. Sableye, for those who have not been paying attention as we've played it a few times, right? Sableye, when you start with it as your active, you begin the game. You always go first, unless the opponent also has a Sableye, at which point, yeah, if each player's active has this body, then it does nothing. So, you get to go first pretty much all the time, and we've established now there are no restrictions on what you can do going first. With Majestic Dawn on as the format, we have so many item cards that we can play that we can draw out our entire deck without any issue. Uxie, of course, helping to do that quite a bit. There are quite a few coin flips in this deck, so I might not get this fully done, we shall see. But yeah, there's a lot that you can do with it there. And the idea is we do still have Crobat in format, assuming Majestic Dawn on. So we can do Flash Bites and Poké Turns and Super Scoop Ups on the first turn of the game so that we can kill all of the opponent's bench more or less, and then use Sableye's Overconfident attack alongside Expert Belt and Special Darkness Energy to do a one-shot on anything that is below 80 HP remaining. Almost every basic Pokemon has only got 80 HP as an absolute maximum, so you would at best have to ping like 1 damage on the active to get the KO. We also have Seeker, which is effectively a KO for this. It's the only supporter card that we need to play in here, and essentially this is a kill because it makes it so the opponent gets rid of one of their bench Pokemon, so that also massively helps. Yeah, this deck is super gross. I'll explain the stuff as we go along as I attempt to do this. I may shuffle, draw, restart until we actually get the Sableye here, even though that seems like it'd be kind of cheating, but that's kind of the idea. We want to showcase this, right? And here is the board that we're going to go against. This is my Lucario Yarn Mega list from the previous round, and it uses Poké G level X for Lost Cyclone, right? Poké G has 100 HP, so this guy is probably the most difficult, no, it's almost definitely the most difficult thing that we would have to KO going first. We also have a Yanma on the bench. This is fairly normal, and I wouldn't normally bench Uxie, but I want to show that this deck can deal with up to like 3 or possibly even 4. If they're lower HP guys, you could deal with 4 basics on the bench, but I really want to show that you can deal with stuff this way. Jaywitz's video, he showed 3 Pokemon with 80 HP each as the thing here. I think this is a bit easier to go after, but I think this is probably better because of Palkia being harder to take out. By the way, this took me about 7 shuffle draw resets in order to get this many Pokemon, and I play about 16 or 17 basics in this deck, so that should show you how unlikely it is that you're going to have to go against this in the first place. So, we will shuffle draw, we'll get ourselves up, and we do start with a Sableye, so that's really good. As you can see, this is going to be completely random from here on out, so we'll get our prices down. We don't know what they are yet, but hopefully we can look at them with the Lithograph later on. So, we always go first because we have this Sableye, so we will take our first turn here and see what we can do. Starting off with a Crobat is already really good. Now, there's 2 approaches that we could take here. If we know that the Seeker is available, or if we can get to the Seeker, then the goal should be to KO the Yanma on the bench first, then get Seeker to effectively KO the Uxie, and we can then focus all of our damage on the Palkia. If we KO the Yanma first, then it's only got 50 HP, we can get a prize, and that might be able to pick out the most important resource out of our deck. So that's what we're going to go for. We'll start with the Quick Ball over here as soon as I'm actually able to do so. The buttons take priority over the hand, by the way. So we'll start with Quick Ball. This lets you look at the cards from the top of your deck until you get a Pokemon card. That goes into hand, everything else gets shuffled. Well, if you don't have any cards to shuffle in, then you don't shuffle the deck. So we have 2 Crobat. That's pretty strong. In order to keep going with this hand, we are probably going to need this Victory Medal to actually find us something here. Victory Medal is something you would get by winning Battle Roads. You flip 2 coins. If both of them are heads, then you get to search your deck for any card you want. If one is heads, you draw a card. If both are tails, you do nothing. So we'll see what we can get here 2 heads, so wow, very lucky with that. I have a really hard time flipping heads with this deck, so kind of glad to see this straight away, because we'll get to see the full power of this go off here. So with 2 heads here, we get to search our deck for any one card that we want. The card we want to get here is Poké Drawer based on the hand, because we can use that, 2 of them in tandem, to search for any 2 cards that we want out of the deck. So that's definitely what we're picking up, but we need to see some key pieces in here. So we have the Special Darkness Energy, we only play 1 of these because we don't need any more. We have the Seeker, and we have an Expert Belt. So our final KO stuff is going to be totally fine. We have our Lithograph in deck, so we need to see if there are any major pieces prized. There's 1 Poké Turn, that could be some damage that we need. There's Poké Blowers are all fine, so we can go with that. Super Scoop Up seems to be all there, so I think we're good to go as far as the main stuff goes. Sableye doesn't matter that it's prized because we started with it. There's 1 Crobat prized because we play 4, so maybe that's the thing we might need, but we can live without this for now. If we draw into it, that's going to be great. Otherwise, doesn't really matter. So we're going to take the Poké Drawer, use that so we can now search for any 2 cards that we want. We are going to want the Uxie. We probably don't want to take Dual Ball just in case we don't actually, actually flip 2 heads with it, because we do need the Uxie to keep our plays going here. So let's not tempt fate, we will just do that, and we will take Special Dark is tempting. The Poké Turn is pretty good here too, but the Special Dark being unsearchable, I think we can draw into the Poké Turns as we go. So I'm just going to take the energy now, so I can keep going with that. So we'll just attach the energy, we will play both of these Crobat down, and this allows us to put 2 damage counters on the opponent's board. So we will do that with the Yanma over here. And now we can play the Uxie, we will draw 4 cards and see where we go from there. Couple of good things we have. We'll start with a Victory Medal again, because I think that's the best overall bet for this. Do get 1 head, so we draw 1 card off of that. Super Scoop Ups are going to be pretty handy if we can pull the Uxie back into hand. That's going to be relatively good. We have an Unown here as well though. This Unown lets you discard it from the bench and draw 1 card. That synergizes with a Pokemon Rescue that we have here as well, so we'll be able to draw an additional card off of that. So we'll use that power now, get ourselves the extra draw. Poké Turn is really good here, that symbolizes another damage counter that we can place on the Yanma, so that helps out quite a bit. We're actually looking pretty close to being able to almost just score the KO here anyway. One of the advantages to Poké Blower, instead of playing other extra copies of some of the other stuff we have here, is if we play 2 of these at the same time, it's Gust of Wind. So we could force this giant 100 HP Palkia to the bench. If we KO Yanma, then all that's left is Uxie, and we just need Expert Belt to win the game from there. So I think that's what we should go for. So we will go ahead and play the Poké Turn. This will pick up the Crobat from the bench, so we can play it back down, put a 3rd damage counter on the Yanma. We just need 2 more procs of that now, and we can win the game. So that's pretty wonderful, right? Looking at what we have in the discard, Junk Arm isn't the greatest yet. I think we want to just try and play these Super Scoop Ups now, because one thing that might happen is we might have to play Junk Arm to get rid of one of the Poké Blowers. So before we get into that, let's flip for the Super Scoop Up. If we flip heads on one of these, we can pick up the Uxie and we can keep drawing. That's going to be the goal here. We don't, which is difficult, we shall say. Let's use the Pokemon Rescue. That takes 1 Pokemon from our discard pile back into our hand. So we'll do that. We'll play down the Unown, discard it, draw a card. Let's see if we can get going for that. Another Super Scoop Up? I mean, you gotta get 1 of them, right? It's the 3rd one here. If we can actually flip this as a heads, that would be helpful. But no. So now the play gets a lot more difficult, because now if we don't flip heads on the 4th one, we are going to run out of stuff to do. This is where maybe picking up the Dual Ball would have been better instead of the Uxie itself. but if I was going to flip this many tails, then I wouldn't have been able to keep going anyway. We do finally flip heads on the 4th attempt, but we've had to get rid of 2 Poké Blowers for that, so that kind of scuppers the plan a little bit, we shall say. Anyway, we get to pick up the Uxie with our 4th Super Scoop Up, and bench it down, draw a fresh hand of 7. We have the Expert Belt, that's really good. We have Pokéturn and Junkam available, and the Seeker. So we're actually really close to being able to get this here. With the Pokéturn and Junkam, that is capable of scoring the KO on the Yanma, which is one of the main bits that we want here. Expert Belt can let us score the knockout on Palkia if we can get there. If we hadn't flipped so many tails, actually, if we'd have gotten one of the initial 2 Super Scoop Ups, we would have had this game won. That's kind of should show how crazy this setup can be. We almost had it if it wasn't for so many tails flips. But this deck can survive quite a few of them if you don't like get too many in a row, I suppose. We'll get the Unown down. I think this will probably come in slightly later. We're going to use Pokédex Handy first. So Handy lets you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, choose one of them to go into the hand, the other one goes to the bottom of the deck. Pokéturn is absolutely perfect. That means we can actually score the KO on the Yanma right now if we wanted to. So we'll take that into hand. We'll play the other one as well to see what the next couple of cards are here. Drawer is potentially really good. We could use that to grab ourselves, I mean, we could just use it to draw 1 card, but we have them in the discard too, so we could maybe Junkam for that. Might be a bit overzealous, but we'll see. We'll play the Unown to draw 1 further card. Yeah, we were just looking for another Uxie here, really. So, let us use both of our remaining Pokéturns. We'll pick this up twice, and that will take out the Yanma on the bench. It's only got 50 HP. We play this one because it's got 0 retreat. You could play a 70 HP one, but it's a much worse starter. Take a prize. We haven't seen what the prizes are, but hey, the Crobat is actually perfect here. So now what we're looking to do is take enough damage on the Palkia. We're almost there, because if we bench this Crobat, that does 10 to the Palkia. Seeker lets both players pick up one of their bench Pokemon, so we can use that on the Crobat again, and that's 2 damage counters down. So we basically only need 1 more from there, and Uxie will get us there. We actually have this one. So here's what we do. We play the Crobat, that puts 10 damage on the Palkia in the active. We play Seeker as our supporter for the turn. Both players have to pick up one of their Pokemon and put it into the hand. So we have the Crobat. We bench the Crobat down. Seeker gets discarded. We bench the Crobat down. That's putting the 2nd damage counter on the Palkia here. And now, I mean, we don't even have to play any further. We can extend more if we want to, because we can just play Uxie, draw 5, and go from there. But we technically have enough if we just Junkam the 2 cards here. We will pick up the Pokéturn that we have already played down here. Pokéturn picks up the Crobat, benches it down again, puts another damage counter on the Palkia, and now Sableye, thanks to the Expert Belt, has 20 extra HP, so it has 80 in total. It does 20 more damage to the opponent's active. We have the special Darkness Energy that will make us do 10 more as well, so our mod is plus 30 here. The Palkia is at 70 HP, and Sableye's Overconfident attack, when your HP is higher than the opponent's, you do 40 base, plus the 30 from our damage mod to 70, and we have 80 HP. So we've actually KO'd them here. They have not drawn a single card. We take the KO with Overconfident, and we bench them out. And that is just one small example with it here. We had to deal only 50 HP on the Yanma, makes it a little bit easier, but keep in mind the other best decks of this format were stuff like Yanmega Magnezone. Both of its basics have got 50 HP. Again, you can play a 70 HP Yanma, I suppose, but we did also have access to like more gas in the tank there as well. We did not have to stop where we did. We could have done more damage. But yeah, there's that. SP decks have 80 HP on average. so you do have to work a little bit harder to deal with them, but dealing 80 here and then dealing 10 to the active was pretty much the same as what we did. We did 50 here and 30 to the active. This would have been the same amount of damage that we had to deal. So even if an SP deck starts with 3 SP Pokemon, which is already a tough order to ask for in the first place, you can still take them out before they even get a turn. And yeah, this deck is stupid and would have been tier 0 basically. You either played this or you played with 4 Spiritomb in your deck. And if you didn't do one of those things, you lost the game immediately. Because here is the thing. Obviously, being such an item-focused deck, Spiritomb, who prevents you from playing items whilst it is active, will cause this deck to lose. But you're only going to start Spiritomb about 40% of the time, right? On average. There are, depending on how many basics you've got in your deck, you may end up starting with it a bit more, factoring in mulligans, but it's just a tiny bit over 40% of the time that you are going to open with a card that you play 4 copies of. That's just statistics based on the deck size that you have, and how many cards you draw at the start of the game. So 60% of the time, this deck is still going to be able to play into a Spiritomb matchup because the opponent won't start their Spiritomb. And of those, this deck's success rate of drawing through its entire deck is exceptionally high. You have to flip a humongous amount of tails. We flipped 3 tails on Super Scoop Up in a row in this game, and we still won out. That's how dumb this deck can really be. So, yeah, keep that in mind. We had an easier way to win if we just got 1 out of the first 3 Super Scoop Up heads. So yeah, take that as you will. This deck is very, very stupid, and thankfully, this was not legal for any major tournament. I'm pretty sure it was legal for the battle roads and stuff like that, but like regionals and nationals and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure the format was never in existence. Nationals, I know it wasn't, because that was when they introduced Hard Gold Soul Silver on, but I think a lot of other big tournaments at that time played just Majestic Dawncaller Legend, and just did not play with black and white cards whatsoever because of stuff like this. So yeah, there's a little demonstration of it, and why everything went to hell because of the new rule changes. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this interesting enough. Next time we'll go over what the actual black and white set has to offer. It's not the greatest, I'll be real with you, but there's a fair few things in there that are worth talking about, so we will do that next time. Till then though, take care.